Alright, so I have this really cute outfit, but I am kind of frustrated because I don't want the bottom of the pants to be this weird shiny metallic thing when the top of it is cloth. So I decided to learn how to mess with AMMS stuff, and we got it to look like cloth. Super exciting. And then I realized I had unlimited power and learned how to make stuff look like leather too. So I'm going to talk about some of that stuff. So I use a couple of different programs. For most of my texture editing, I use Krita, which is this free software. And I use it for like all my recolors and stuff, but it is really bad with the type of editing that we specifically need to do for AMMSs. And so I am going to show you two other software that I use for this. So I actually do all of my editing in GIMP for the AMMS, and so I opened up the file here, and if I look over on the side where it has layers, channels, and paths, I click on channel, and if I hide everything except for the red, everything looks red, which I do not like. Same thing for if you just look at the green, just look at the blue, just look at the alpha. I don't like that at all. So I'm going to show you real fast what each of the channels look like when they're in grayscale, and I'm going to show you that in Photoshop. I don't use Photoshop for editing anything because it's gross and I don't like it, but I feel like it's really good for visualizing the channels. So again, I have the AMMS open here. It is a TGA file, which they just work better than PNGs for reasons I don't understand, so I just use them. But when I open a TGA in Photoshop, it shows up weird, like it doesn't have transparency. And then on the bottom right where it has the channels, if I turn on the alpha, it doesn't actually make things transparent, it just changes the color a little bit. Don't really know why it does that, but when you export files, it turns out fine and it has the transparency, so you do you, Photoshop. So if I click on the red here, it is going to show me all of the red. And same thing with green and with blue. So it's like the same thing that GIMP does, except it shows me these in grayscale, and I find it a little easier to parse. So if we look at just this channel here, just looking at like the blue channel, but this will apply to every channel, you can think of like each pixel as having like a percentage of a property. So in the case of like the blue channel, it's going to be how metallic does something look. And so if you color that pixel black, it's going to say 0%. I don't want it to look metallic at all. And if you color it white, it's going to say 100% metallic. It's the most metallic thing you've ever seen in your life. And then all of these gray areas are kind of in-betweens. So the lighter you're at, the higher the percent of metalness your thing is going to look. Each of the channels has like a different property. So if we look at this red channel right here, the terms that they use in industry are like, if it's black, it's called like ambient occlusion, and white is like specular or something. I don't really know what it means, but you can kind of think of it as like, let's see, probably the best way to think of it is like, is light hitting this particular pixel really well? Like I feel like the red channel is like the hardest to explain, so I just kind of YOLO it. You can think of like white is like light is hitting this area more, and then black is like the light isn't hitting the area. So the lighter you are on the red channel, it's not quite reflectiveness, but it's kind of reflectiveness. And then if we look at the green channel is the roughness. And so if you are at, if you use a black pixel, you're saying, I want this to be like really, really rough. And if you're using white, you're saying, I want this to be like super smooth and super glossy. So if I did this, everything would turn like super, super glossy. And we kind of already talked about blue is like the metalness. And then the alpha channel is like, it's also glossiness, but like more. I found that the alpha channel doesn't do a lot unless you're at like 100% black or 100% white. And if you're at like if you color everything, that's not the right color. If you like color the whole thing white, you're gonna get something that's like really glossy and latexy. So that's how some people do like the latex leather edit things. But for all like these in-between colors, I find that it just really doesn't show up that much. So the way that I actually edit them, like I said, I edit everything in GIMP, just because I'm more familiar with it. And so in order to do that in a way that doesn't have you doing like, I don't know, like curves and a bunch of like weird stuff, I go to colors and then components, decompose, and then make sure that the color mode is RGBA because I want the alpha channel. And I hit OK. And if I click on my layers right here, GIMP has now like extracted all the info, so each of these are like paint layers now. So you can basically go and just like draw on them, which I guess you can do that in Photoshop too, but like I said, I don't know the tools and how painting in Photoshop works, so I just do all the stuff in GIMP. And then I was like, I have no idea how to make cloth look like cloth with these, but I know that I want everything to look the same. I want all of it to have like this amount of reflectiveness and shininess and metalness. So I went through on each channel and I grabbed some of this. I did a selection and I copied, and then I hit paste. Oops. Copy and paste. And then I just like dragged it down and put it on top of the thing. Like that. Oops. And then, oh, Mr. Baby, why are you screaming back there? Wow. Cat has a lot to say. So then same kind of deal with this layer for the green. Just you can kind of go on there, paint however you want, copy and paste stuff, drag it around. Same thing for the blue. And then what you do when you're all done, you decided that we look good, is you can go back to colors, components, and then compose, and just make sure that if it says red here, that in this little drop down guy it has red, green, green, blue, blue, alpha, alpha. You hit OK, and then it does some thinking, and ta-da, we've got the AMMS here, and it's cute, and you can save it as a TGA and then import it back into Frosty. I'm going to show you real fast what they looked like for each of my little modifier ones. So for this cloth, here, let's say, so let's start off with, this was the default AMMS, and just pretend that Photoshop is showing the alpha in there. And then for cloth, as you can see, I was very professional about this. And so on my red channel, I literally just grabbed a little box around here that didn't have any of these wrinkles in it, and I pasted it a bunch. And then same thing for the green here. And then blue, I colored that black because I wanted it to be 0% metal. And I left the alpha alone because, like I said, it just doesn't matter a whole lot. And so when I ended up exporting that and putting it into Frosty, this is what showed up in game. And then just to show you in Frosty real fast, this is what the default AMMS looked like for that Lord of Fortune texture. And then my edit to it, once I had exported it from Photoshop and everything, looks like this. Again, kind of hard to like see exactly what changed, so that's why I like being able to just pull it open in Photoshop, especially because it just doesn't do the alpha for some reason. Like, it just doesn't display it. So appreciate that. And then for the leather pants, for what I did with these guys, it kind of like two ways to do it. You could go and look at the AMMS for like the leather around the corset area, which probably would have been smart to do because that's what I did with the pants. But I did not do it that way. I literally color picked just one of the median colors. So on the base AMS, the red, I was like, okay, what color looks like it's kind of in the middle? That one, that looks good. And then I went and I just colored over the red, over the whole pants area. And then I did the same for the green. So you can see that I like saved the cloth AMMS version. You can see like the copy and pasted bits coming out of the side there. But yeah, so also just same thing, picked one of the colors that looked like it was the most common, and then this one still colored everything in black. And this one I did do the alpha, just so I wanted to see what would happen. And anyway, that is how I got like the shininess level of these. I got the texture by doing something with the normal map instead, which I can talk about at some point. But I feel like this is a good example of how like sometimes you don't need all of the details that are inside these. So like the leather guy here, like it looks fine. You're gonna be like running around doing stuff in the game, maybe taking some cute screenshots, but I feel like having all of these extra little details in there, it's not super necessary, and you should not let not wanting to put in like all these different like pixels stop you from messing around with the AMMS and stuff.